Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back. I've got a more current film to talk about here. But before we start with this spoiler-free review, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to get notifications for when I put up new content, which is usually 1 to 2 times a week, though occasionally I'll drop a third in there. Share this video and channel around, and while you're here, go ahead and check out my back catalog, as it really does help the channel out a lot. Now, let's jump into this more current film, which is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once from just now, 2022, starring Michelle Yeoh, Huy Quan, James Hong, Stephanie Hsu, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, I don't really know how to categorize or describe this film, honestly. It is a bit bizarre, so let's just start off with a synopsis here, which reads, an aging Chinese immigrant is swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the world by exploring other universes, connecting with the lives she could have led. So that definitely helps get a little bit of a head on, what this is all about. But let's dive in a little bit more because it does get a bit complicated in that certain characters in these other universes have found a way to connect to other versions of themselves. So let's say you connect with a version of you from another universe where you're a martial arts expert. You can connect and gain that skill, gain their history, their memories, their emotions, which you can bring back to where you currently are in your current universe, and you can use that connection to your advantage. For instance, if you're in a fight, you can concentrate on that martial arts aspect, pull all that info into where you are, and those skills can help you out in the fight that you're currently in. If I understood that correctly. Like I said, there's a lot of jumbled up stuff in here, so we got to kind of let all that sink in about the multiverse. But the really interesting thing is just how you connect, because there are all these different paths that we take in life, and sometimes the smallest decision can throw you off course and you would have a completely different future than you would have thought. So, for instance, if I followed this correctly, you'd be sent instruction from a guide in this other universe that would tell you what strange and unexpected decision to make and what to concentrate on so you can pull this other skill. For example, switching your shoes. So you put your right shoe on your left foot and left shoe on the right foot. Or put something in a certain part of your body where maybe it doesn't belong. And somehow it's so strange that it causes a multiverse. That little split branches off and connects you with another version of yourself where you can then pull all that information from the other consciousness into where you currently are. I know it sounds strange trying to explain that, but trust me, this is where, the other aspect of this sci-fi story kind of comes in, which is a comedy, lots of comedy thrown in. Very strange and in some cases very lewd and just downright ridiculous. Particularly some of these scenes with a character played by Harry Shum Jr. are just really bizarre, but somehow, built up like this very dramatic scene. It's hard to explain without going into the spoiler stuff, but it's definitely worth just seeing what all that is. So another aspect of this, aside from the obvious, action that we see in the trailer, is that outside of the sci-fi action, martial arts, and crazy comedy, there's this very touching family drama that's also happening within this plot, which involves, troubles that the family's having with their laundromat and with their taxes, trouble in their marriage, some family issues going on with our main character, Evelyn, which is played by Michelle Yeoh, and her daughter, played by Stephanie Hsu, who, I was really loving her work in Marvelous Mrs Maisel, and her father, played by James Hong, who I've seen in several things growing up, especially remember him from Big Trouble in Little China, and her husband, played by Huy Quan, who's best known for playing Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and of course, playing Data in Goonies, and who's been absent from Hollywood for a few years, for several years actually. So while some of this absurd sci-fi aspects are hard to keep track of as far as what exactly is happening in some scenes, since it definitely jumps around a bit from one universe to another pretty quickly, and exactly what is on the line and how they need to solve this multidimensional problem. Um, this martial arts action, special effects, zany comedy, and especially the dramatic family related storyline still ties everything together very, very well. I feel like they did an excellent job with this film. I was glad to see Michelle Yeoh starring in a film like this, especially one with great representation. But I really do hope that it does well, and it kind of shows Hollywood as a whole, the value that there is to be had in a project that's put together like this. As I've been a fan of Michelle Yeoh since Super Cop and Heroic Trio, and I've seen her kind of, in little roles here and there along the way, but I feel like she never really got enough notice for what I felt she was worth. But in the past few years, we've seen other projects such as Star Trek Discovery, Shang-Chi, and even that cheesy holiday film Last Christmas. It definitely filled me with some hope that maybe we're going to get to see more of her. And if this film is any indication of where she could go now that there are more eyes on her, so to speak, I'll gladly drop some cash to get out to the theater to see some of her films on the big screen like I did for this one. Anyways, to summarize, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a really fun action martial arts comedy sci-fi family drama, which I feel that A24 really knocked it out of the park yet again, and it's highly worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this review and hanging around to the end. Be sure to follow all that YouTube stuff I mentioned and at the beginning, and I will see you in the next one.